Going home for the holidays shouldn't feel like preparing for emotional battle, but for a lot of people who've left high control religions, it does. Maybe your stomach tightens just thinking about it. Maybe you're already rehearsing conversations in your head, or bracing yourself for the comments, the questions, the looks. Why did you leave? We're just worried about you. Have you thought about coming back? And suddenly you're not just visiting family, you're back in a system that once controlled how you thought, felt, and lived. If this time of year feels more like anxiety, dread, or even grief than joy, there is nothing wrong with you. Leaving a high control religious environment doesn't just change your beliefs. It can deeply impact your sense of identity, your relationships, and even reshape your nervous system and your sense of safety. And holidays, they tend to amplify all of it. The expectations, the pressure to conform, the unspoken tension, the feeling of being misunderstood or not fully accepted. Environments like that often tie things like love, belonging, and even moral worth to belief and behavior. So when you step outside of that system, your brain might understand that you're safe now, but your body doesn't always catch up right away. And that's why being around family, especially for longer periods, like during the holiday, can feel so intense. It's not just the conversations, it's what they represent. It can activate old patterns, the need to explain yourself, the fear of being judged or rejected, the pressure to conform to keep the peace, or that deep, almost automatic feeling of I'm doing something wrong. Even subtle things like tone of voice, certain phrases, or religious rituals can trigger responses that are rooted in years of conditioning. So what you're feeling is not irrational. It's not an overreaction. So in this video, we're going to talk about something that almost no one prepares you for. How to handle family pressure during holidays after leaving a high control religion. Not just in theory, but in real, practical, grounded ways that actually help you feel safer, more in control, and less alone. Because you deserve to go into this season, whichever it is, with tools, clarity, and self-trust, not just survival mode. Before we get into anything practical, there's something really important to understand. A lot of the advice out there about dealing with family during the holidays assumes one thing, that you're starting from a relatively safe, neutral place. But if you've come out of a high control religious environment, that is often not your reality. Because for you, this isn't just about awkward conversations or differing opinions. This can hit something much deeper. It can feel like your identity is being questioned, like your worth is being measured, like love is conditional. And even if no one says anything directly, your body might still react. The tension, the anxiety, the hyper-awareness, like you're bracing for something. That's not you being too sensitive. That's your nervous system remembering what it learned in an environment where belonging, safety, or even love may have been tied to belief and behavior. So instead of approaching this like a simple communication problem, we need to approach it as something that involves your boundaries, your history, and your emotional safety. Because the goal here isn't to win arguments or to finally make everyone understand you. The goal is something much simpler and much more important: to help you move through these situations without abandoning yourself. And from that place, the strategies we're about to go through will actually start to make sense and actually work. So, the first advice: understand what's actually being triggered. Before you try to manage anything externally, start by getting really clear on what's happening internally. Because what you're reacting to during these gatherings is often not just what's happening in the moment. It's what it represents. A certain tone of voice, a comment about your beliefs, a prayer at the table. Those things can activate something much older. Maybe a time when disagreement wasn't safe, when questioning came with consequences, when love, belonging, or approval felt conditional. So instead of asking yourself, why am I reacting like this? Try asking, what does this remind my body of? That shift alone can reduce a lot of self-judgment. And then get specific. Is it being asked to explain your choices? Is it being subtly judged or corrected? Being expected to participate in religious practices? Once you can name your triggers, they become predictable. And once they are predictable, you can actually prepare for them. You go from feeling blindsided to feeling oriented. Advice number 2: decide your why, your purpose, before you go. If you do choose to spend time with family, go in with clarity, not pressure, not guilt, not I guess I have to, but clarity. Ask yourself, why am I choosing to be there? And be honest. Maybe it's I want to see certain people I care about, or I'm okay with a short visit this year, or I'm testing what feels manageable for me right now. Or maybe you realize that I'm only going because I feel like I have no choice. And if that's the answer, pause right there, because going without a clear self-chosen reason often leads to resentment, overwhelm, and that feeling of abandoning yourself. But when you do choose consciously, something shifts. Even if things get uncomfortable, you can remind yourself of that I chose to be here for this or that reason. And I can also choose to leave. And that sense of agency makes a huge difference. It turns the experience from something that's happening to you into something you are actively navigating. Advice 3: give yourself permission to limit or not go. This one can bring up a lot because many people coming out of high control environments have been taught very deeply that showing up is a moral obligation. That being a good son or daughter or sibling means enduring discomfort to keep the peace. But here's the reality: access to you is not something anyone is automatically entitled to, especially if being there comes at the cost of your mental health. So before the holidays, ask yourself honestly, what would actually feel manageable for me? And then get practical. That might look like staying for 2 hours instead of the whole day, skipping specific events that are more intense, booking your own place to stay instead of sleeping there, or choosing not to go this year at all. And if you do go, build in limits. Decide your arrival time, decide your leaving time, have your own transportation. This isn't about being dramatic. It's about creating structure that protects you and feeling adult, even though with your, for example, with your parents. Because when you know you can leave, your body doesn't feel as trapped. Advice 4. Set clear, simple boundaries. Now that you know what tends to trigger you, the next step is deciding very concretely what you're okay with and what you're not okay with. And this is where a lot of people get stuck, because they think boundaries are about controlling the other person. And they're not. A boundary is simply you deciding, if X happens, here's what I will do. So instead of trying to make your family stop bringing up religion, you define your response ahead of time. For example, if the conversation turns into trying to convince me, I'm going to step outside for a bit. If I'm asked to defend my beliefs, I'm going to say I'm not open to that conversation. If a prayer starts, I might quietly sit it out or excuse myself. Notice how simple that is. It's just that it doesn't feel like it. You're not arguing. You're not explaining your entire life story. You're not trying to be understood in that moment. You're just being clear. And if it helps, practice the exact sentence beforehand out loud. Because when things get intense, you don't want to be figuring it out right there and then. You want to be remembering what you already decided. Advice 5. Plan your exit strategies in advance. One of the most regulating things you can give yourself in these situations is a way out. Because a big part of what makes these environments overwhelming is the feeling of being stuck. So don't wait until you're already triggered to figure out how to leave or take space. Decide that before you even walk in. Think through it practically. How are you getting there, and can you leave independently? Where can you go if you need a break? A walk, your car, the bathroom, outside, to a hotel? I don't know, but it's you who decide. What's a simple sentence you can use to step away? Something like, I'm just going to go out for a bit of air. I need to take a quick call. I'll be right back. You don't need to justify it. You just need an exit. And if it helps, set up support in the background. Text a friend who knows you might check in. Agree with a partner on a signal. Have something grounding ready on your phone. Music, notes, reminders, whatever. The goal here is simple. Your body needs to know that you're not trapped. And once it knows that, everything becomes a little more manageable. Advice 6. Expect grief, not just conflict. A lot of people go into these situations preparing for arguments or war, but they get caught off guard by something else entirely, grief. Because being around your family, especially in a holiday setting, can highlight the gap between what is and what you wish it could be. You might notice that the conversations you can't have, the parts of yourself you feel you have to hide, the kind of acceptance you're not receiving. And that can hurt in a very quiet, heavy way. So if that feeling shows up, don't push it away or judge it. Name it. This is grief. Not because you don't love your family, but because something important is missing or has changed. And giving yourself space to feel that, even briefly, can actually prevent it from building into overwhelm later on. Advice 7. Let go of the need to be understood. This one can be one of the hardest shifts, but also one of the most freeing. There's often a deep hope that if you just explain yourself clearly enough, calmly enough, logically enough, they will finally understand. And sometimes that happens. But in many high control belief systems, understanding your perspective would require them to question their own entire framework. And that's not something most people are able or willing to do. So if you keep trying to be understood in that environment, you can end up exhausted, frustrated, and feeling even more alone. Instead, experiment with this shift. They may not understand me, and I can still choose how I show up. You don't need their agreement to trust yourself. You don't need their validation to make your choices legitimate. And you don't have to turn every conversation into an opportunity to be seen. Sometimes protecting your peace means letting go of the need to be fully understood in that space. Maybe it's not needed. Advice 8. Regulate your nervous system in real time. When you are in the middle of it, logic alone often won't help. Because if your nervous system is activated, you're not just thinking stressed, you're feeling unsafe on a body level. So instead of trying to argue your way out of that feeling, focus on regulating your body directly. Keep it simple and subtle. Slow your breathing, especially the exhale. Press your feet into the ground and notice where you are. Hold something cold or step outside in the fresh air. Gently name things you can see, hear, and feel. You can even silently remind yourself, I'm safe, I'm here, I have choices. These aren't big dramatic techniques. They're small, but they work because they meet your nervous system where it is right now. And the more regulated you are, the easier it becomes to hold boundaries, stay present, and make decisions you won't regret later. Advice 9. Use surface level mode strategically. Not every space is safe for depth. And one of the most helpful skills you can develop in these situations is knowing when not to go there. Because you don't owe vulnerability to people who don't know how to hold it. So instead of engaging in conversations that you already know will turn into tension, debate, or subtle judgment, give yourself permission to stay on the surface. And that might look like keeping things light and neutral, redirecting conversations, giving short, non-inviting answers. For example, how have you been? Good, just focusing on work and taking things step by step. And then gently shifting the topic in another direction. This isn't you being fake. This is you being selective with your energy. Think of it as choosing the level of access people have to you in that moment. Depth is something you offer where it's safe, not something you owe everywhere. It's something that is deserved. Advice 10. Build your chosen family around the holidays. If biological family feels complicated, strained, or unsafe, it becomes even more important to intentionally create connection elsewhere, unfortunately. Because you still deserve warmth. You still deserve belonging. You still deserve to feel at home during this time of year. So think about who does feel safe. Friends, partners, online communities, support groups. And start building your own version of the holidays around that. That could be having your own gathering before or after family events. Creating new traditions that actually feel good to you. Checking in with people who understand your experience. Even something small, like a call with someone who gets it, can completely shift how alone you feel. Family doesn't have to mean the people you were raised with, even though we wish it was. It can also mean the people who see you, respect you, and support who you are now. Advice 11. Deconstruct shame and moral obligation. A lot of the pressure you might feel during the holidays doesn't just come from your family. It comes from inside. That voice that says, I'm hurting them, I'm being selfish, I should just go along with it. But it's important to question where that voice comes from, because in many high control environments, shame and obligation are used to keep people aligned, to make it feel like love must be earned, disagreement is betrayal, and boundaries are selfish. So when you feel that guilt rise up, pause and ask, is this actually my value, or is this something I was taught to feel? And then gently reframe. You can care about your family and still make choices they don't agree with. You can love them and still protect yourself. Love does not require self-abandonment. Advice 12. Accept the mixed reality. One of the most stabilizing things you can do emotionally is stop trying to force a single clean narrative about your family. Because the truth is often mixed. You might love them and feel hurt by them. You might enjoy certain moments and feel completely drained by others. You might miss how things used to feel and at the same time know that you can't go back. All of that can exist at the same time. And when you allow that complexity, you stop putting pressure on yourself to either just be grateful and ignore the hard parts, or cut everything off completely. Instead, you can respond to reality as it is, moment by moment. This part feels okay, this part doesn't. That kind of emotional honesty creates a lot more internal stability and sobriety mentally. Advice 13. Get support, especially trauma-informed support. And finally, don't try to carry all of this on your own, because leaving a high control religious environment isn't just a belief shift. It can affect your identity, your relationships, your sense of safety, even how your body responds to stress. So if you can, seek out support that actually understands that. And that might be a trauma-informed therapist, someone familiar with religious trauma, or just strict religion in general. It can be support groups with people who've had similar experiences. Because being able to say, this is what I'm dealing with, and have someone respond with, that makes complete sense, that can be incredibly grounding. And if professional support isn't accessible right now, even finding spaces, online or otherwise, where your experience is understood can make a real difference. At the end of the day, this isn't about handling your family perfectly. It's about staying connected to yourself in environments where that hasn't always been easy. If these holidays feel heavy for you, if they bring up tension, anxiety, or that quiet sense of not fully belonging, I want you to hear this clearly. You're not difficult, you're not too sensitive, and you are not the problem. You are someone who stepped outside of something, or trying to step outside of something that likely shaped your entire world, your beliefs, your relationships, your sense of right and wrong. And that takes a level of courage that often goes unseen, especially by the people who are still inside of it. So, of course, this is hard. Of course, being back in those environments can feel disorienting, activating, even painful at times. But here's what matters. You get to decide how you show up now. You get to decide what you participate in. You get to decide what access people have to you. And you are allowed to protect your peace, even if other people don't understand it, even if they don't agree with it, because your healing doesn't require their permission. And maybe this year won't be perfect. Maybe there will still be moments that feel uncomfortable or triggering, most likely. But if you can move through it without abandoning yourself a bit more, if you can stay even a little more grounded, a little more clear, a little more on your own side, that matters. That is real progress. So take what feels helpful from this, leave what doesn't, go at your own pace, and if no one around you fully understands what you're navigating right now, just know that you're not alone in this experience. There are people out there who get it, who have walked this path, and who are building lives on the other side of it. And you are allowed to do the same.